always forget to change the damn titles uh to the stream before I go live on them. Then I have to change it while I'm doing it. Oh hell, I'm not even logged in. What the fuck?
Does
Why is
this
that not?
record at the same time we stream?
No, it doesn't start recording until I hit record. The stream, the moment I hit share on the stream. Let's see. This is episode 19, I believe. Season 4. Let's see. This is episode 19, I
Oh,
believe. So
that was
19.
intentional.
Um, we're gonna do this one, conspiracy. I don't know. Well, I don't even know what the name is. So we're just gonna call it. I'm just gonna call this episode 19. I don't. Yeah, you can give it a name later. I don't even know what to call this one. All right, let's see. Uh, Rhett and I discuss various topics, including many conspiracies and conspiracy theories, because there is a difference. A lot of people don't seem to understand that there's a difference between a conspiracy and a conspiracy theory.
Unless they're retarded. We just got
Or,
banned from YouTube for saying that.
or we could get banned from Facebook for saying that too, but who gives two shits? I
Yeah,
got
yeah,
I got
probably.
I got blocked on Facebook for saying that black people were retarded for championing the riots last summer.
Yeah, that's not a very tactful way to say that, dude. Obviously,
Yeah,
you're not a very tactful individual, especially when it comes to
sometimes
arguing about politics online. No wonder you've been banned.
sometimes
I've seen some of the stuff you said.
sometimes tact is wasted on these people. I mean,
I don't have
you
anything to
can't
say about that.
you can't deny it. You can't deny that it is the truth. All right, so right now,
If you're
here we
not
go.
willing to be tactful, then you shouldn't even be arguing online. I don't argue online at all, so I don't have to be
Well,
tactful.
I argue online now. If I'm arguing debates,
In comments,
I'm very in the comments, like the comment
no,
sections.
you
I
it's
post some things in the
pointless.
comment sections, but when I post stuff on my own profile, like the stuff that when I said black people were retarded, I posted it on my own profile. I said I'm sick and tired of. It was a long comment, and only one portion of it said anything about uh, black people being retarded. But I posted on it. I'm sick and tired of black people championing all of this chaos and acting like this is normal for our community, and it's retarded of black people to continue to do this. And Facebook didn't like it. They said that I was being racist against black people. That's
Obviously,
what
they said that,
that's what they banned me for. They said I was being racist.
but you can't be surprised that they did that. You should have known.
Well, I was under the assumption that black people can't be racist. I mean, that's what they tell me all the time.
Did you tell Jay about this? Because
Yeah,
he's commenting on the stream. What
yeah. I
is this? How
told
dare y'all be unapologetic?
I told this little bastard that if he wanted to join the show, and he said no. And I said, okay, well, you little pussy, I'm going to do the show without you. Now, if he wants to join the
Man,
show, tell him to click on the motherfucking link that I sent them the last time and come and join the show. Like, it's not been a little bitch.
you seriously got to stop cussing so much in these videos.
Hey, who gives a shit? I mean, no, I haven't even hit record yet,
I
so it's not even
Okay,
on the
well,
podcast part yet.
once or twice an episode is fine, but like you've been going overboard here lately.
Well, lately I've been more pissed off than usual. Well, all right, let's get started here. Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Story of America with me, your host, DeAndre Pace, and co-host, Rhett Williams. Today's episode is one that's probably been a long time in the making, and it's going to be all about conspiracies today, conspiracy and conspiracy theories. Um, be pre the show, which we just sit here and talk crap. Mostly me doing the crap talking. I was talking about some people don't understand that there's a difference between a conspiracy and a conspiracy theory. For example, um, the Obama administration and the Clinton campaign spying on Donald Trump Tower is a conspiracy. Saying that aliens exist is a conspiracy theory. Now,
I don't think that's a conspiracy theory.
though
The
it's now
conspiracy
starting to
theory
become
part of aliens
conspiracy.
exist is the government knows about it and they're hiding it from us. That's the conspiracy theory.
Yeah, that's a better analogy. So I don't know where we're going to start with this, but we're going to have fun. So, uh, you're more into the conspiracy side of things than I am. I mean, most of my conspiracy stuff. Oh, look, Jay just sent us a message. Let's listen to what he said. Let's listen to him.
Is it safe?
I don't know. He just sent it. He just sent a voice message, and Jay. The strange thing is when I met Jay, all those years ago, Jay cursed a lot more than I do. And so Jay's comment is probably much safer for the stream than mine are. Let's hear what Jay has to say.
Do know that you labeled that episode that you're going live with as Growing in Christ with Jay. First of all, it's not even Sunday. Second of all, how dare you?
Well, first of all, Jay, just to be sure, I did not label the show Growing in Christ with Jay. I forgot to change the title of the episode before I went to before I went to restream. Because when I do this from Zoom, and I hit connect to all of my platforms, which is I use Restream for that. I have to go into Restream, change the title, and then hit the button here in Zoom. But I forgot to do that, and I changed the title in Zoom. So if you go to the YouTube channel, it'll say episode 19. On Facebook, it's going to say Growing in Christ.
Baby hippos.
What the hell?
It's baby hippos.
Baby hippos look so cute for such a dangerous animal.
It's baby Leviathan, our baby behemoth.
But yeah, baby behemoth, that swaying cedar-like tail.
Yeah. It doesn't even have a tail.
They do the muck spread, but that's the only time their tails really do anything. When they press their tail against their anal glands and shit liberally out of it.
Hippos kill more people than any other animal in the world.
Not other than any other animal, but any other animal in Africa, they kill the most. Because hippos they're just mean. And they're mean for no reason. Like they kill other animals just because they got too close. Other animals that mean no harm.
People. Okay, this isn't exactly fair here.
Mosquito. Mosquito.
It's also cheating to put humans on there because obviously.
Yeah, but I don't count humans as being animals. We're a superior species. Let's see, JS sent another
message. Where did I
message.
hear that it was hippos?
Hippos kill the most people in Africa. That's I know that for a fact.
Hippopotami. Anyway.
Okay, I got you now, man. I was like all jelly and stuff. I was like, how dare he do the show without me? And you know what, man? Dude, it's not good to be tactical. I understand to be tactical with the words. But dude, if you have to say it plain in sight, I mean, you got to be plain in sight. This banning stuff, this is just crazy, dude. We don't have to listen to political correctness. I mean, that's the whole agenda.
Well, Jay,
I'm definitely not promoting political correctness.
Rhett is correct that I need to be more tactful in some of these things because we do want to make our audience be younger because that's the people that we need to change. It's the young people, and those are the ones that will get us banned the most. probably should be smoking cigars on the live stream, but
Anyway,
you smoke vapes, on them,
whatever.
so. But another thing, Jay, I told you before, you don't show up for your part of the show, so I just do it without you. I mean, I've been telling you, you've been, I'm not going to say the B word like I normally do, but you've been moaning and griping to me for, I don't know how long, that all I do is bring you on the Sunday shows and I talk God with you all the time, which I love doing. But, you know, we can't go overtly politics when we're talking God. I mean, we could, but that's not the purpose of that show. But you're like, well, you want to talk more of the politics stuff. I says, well, come on to the regular show, and you're like, oh no, I can't. I don't want to do that. Like, you can't have the best of both worlds, Jay. So the show must go on with or without you.
We should probably get started.
Well, we are starting.
You know, we're already like we're not even talking about anything. You're just responding to Jay.
Well, he's commenting, but as I was saying, you seem to be more into conspiracy stuff than I am. So why don't you start us off with one of the conspiracies or conspiracy theories that you have found most interesting lately?
I wouldn't say I'm into conspiracy theories in the sense that I believe them a lot, because most of them I don't believe. I just know a lot about them because I have researched them. So, you know, the ones that are legitimate, like obviously the JFK assassination, like nobody believes the official story. At least very few people do. And the idea that it was just Oswald is kind of ridiculous. And they found the bullet on Connolly's gurney completely untarnished, like in pristine condition. But bullets don't bounce around and ricochet inside, bounce off of bones and look fine. And like, this is what the Warren Commission concluded, that the bullet somehow, the only bullet that killed Kennedy and went through Connolly's body, ended somehow up on his gurney.
Was that the second or first bullet?
The only bullet is the single bullet theory that they put forth.
Oh, he was obviously shot twice. I mean, if you've seen the video, the pink mist, as they call it.
The bullet that killed him and went through Connolly. It's a stupid theory. It's obviously not the case.
But I'm thinking that's the first one though, because if I remember from watching the video, the first bullet went through his neck, if I'm not mistaken, and then the second one blew his brain out.
Yes, it did, and you could see him. You could see him grabbing his throat.
So I would say it would have to be the first bullet that this particular conspiracy theory talks about.
Well, it's not a conspiracy theory. That's the official story.
Well, it's not real. It's a lie.
It's also like the most tired, like it's basically at this point, it's all but confirmed. And the fact that they keep delaying the release of the information tells me they did it.
It also tells me that somebody in Congress will probably be jeopardized.
Somebody's still alive, most likely. Yes, I would think most of them are dead, but
somebody will be jeopardized.
But the interesting thing about this, because people, there's a speech on YouTube that's titled, "This is the speech that got Kennedy killed." He started talking about secret societies and whatnot. Kennedy, it's well known that he wanted to abolish the CIA for the Bay of Pigs incident, which my grandfather actually was at the Bay of Pigs whenever this took place. And he was against the Federal Reserve. But he directly opposed the CIA. And the CIA put forth to him an idea, a plan called Operation Northwoods. And this is completely declassified. They planned to stage a false flag this is due to the Cuban Missile Crisis. They wanted to go to war with Cuba. And so in Operation Northwoods, one of their ideas, and this is going to tie in nicely to 9/11, one of the ideas in Operation Northwoods Again, completely declassified. You can go look this up. They plan to basically create these drone jetliners and fly them into buildings. And Kennedy said no. So I think the CIA was probably behind his assassination because he wanted to do away with them. It's out of self-preservation. They just had him killed.
Well, that goes in line with what we talked about before with the CIA. Many times been tasked with things that even administration doesn't know about, and that is the most dangerous part about the CIA, and really most of this shadow government crap is because these appointed bureaucrats answer to no one, and they have agendas that nobody but them and whoever their overlord is that issues them these orders.
And they don't
Nobody
change
knows.
with the administrations. They just stay there. They
Yeah,
just
and
stay in power. There's no terms or anything. That's why it's called the deep state, because they're entrenched.
That's the problem with Donald Trump's presidency. Was, as I said before, on the show we did with Omar, he should have fired every single member of the State Department when he got in there. He should have fired everybody in the FBI, everybody in the CIA, everybody in the State Department, and replaced them with people that were outside of the bureaucracy.
I think the problem is that he would have to replace them immediately on the same day for those organizations, those agencies to keep functioning. And
those agencies don't really need to function, though.
Well, some of them do.
Not really.
Not all of them.
I mean,
well,
the FBI,
honestly,
the FBI
you're probably right.
Point,
we could go, a month or two without an FBI, and we'd probably be fine.
The FBI at this point, it's not even a real organization anymore. They're just a shadow arm of the Democrat Party.
And the CIA pretty much operates by themselves outside of the
CIA
party.
The CIA operates for for George Soros, probably.
George Soros and a few of those other. See, George Soros is another one of those conspiracy things that's just like people roll their eyes when you bring him up because the dude's still alive. But like he was at the World Economic Forum and he spoke and he was speaking about his fear that this whole conflict in Ukraine or perhaps in the South China Sea or anyways, he feared World War III was about to start and it could be the end of civilization. And when someone's like George Soros says that, you start to fear, oh my God, this is probably going to happen.
I was listening to Tucker, and I haven't watched Tucker in a long time because, we do these shows, and I get too lazy to go back and watch the DVR. And I was listening to Tucker talk about George Orwell, and I think if people had listened to George Orwell when it comes to the media and some of these other extreme entities, we might be in a better place.
The current government is worse than the government of George Orwell's worst nightmares. In fact, I saw a political cartoon of him sitting down reading a book called 2022, and he was freaking out.
What's that, George? Oh, that's the book that I was talking about. That Tucker was quoting. He was making a comparison. He was making a comparison to Brian Stelter, and basically George Orwell gave a accurate description of Brian Stelter in 1984.
You know what? I think the main issue, this is the hill to die on, and I think Matt Walsh has also said this, is the transgender issue. The question, what is a woman? Because in 1984, Winston is the main character. He works for the Ministry of Truth, which is essentially the government's propaganda arm. And Winston and I forget the woman's name. They go to work for this resistance, and he's captured by the Ministry of Truth. And eventually, at the end of the book, they get him to admit that Big Brother knows best. They basically torture him to the point where psychological torture, to the point where he finally accepts that 2 + 2 = 5. And I think what is a woman is a similar question. It's very fundamental. We all know the answer. And if they can convince you that the answer is something other than adult human female, then they win.
Well, effectively they've already done that with manhood. They've effectively already done that. So doing it to womanhood, which is harder than dismantling manhood. And I say that because uh, the reason why it's harder, in my opinion, is because women have been cherished throughout society, almost like children. They've been taboo from almost everything. They've been protected and and curdled from society, from the pressures of the oppression of man, so to speak. So they were able to easily destroy the idea and concept of manhood. And so now they've been met with pushback on womanhood because, for one, the women, particularly the second age feminists, not the third wave, but the second age feminists, the ones that are still around and kicking, I take
Those
great
are the boomer.
offense.
That's the boomer generation, second wave.
Yes,
The
yes.
ones right now is like fourth or fifth wave. And the waves keep coming faster and faster. I think first wave was the suffragette movement, right?
Yeah, the suffrage movement, the first wave. But you have the second wave. They are taking great offense to the third and fourth wave of feminism because
Yeah, they don't
they,
even
they're
realize how bad it is, some of them.
they are throwing out of the book everything that the first age fought for, and that the second age really kind of put the nail in the coffin as far as the terms of equality between the sexes in the workforce. And this new age of feminism has come and completely destroyed that. And so now they've been hit with pushback from the majority of the country. And when I say the majority of the country, I mean women. Women make up a slight majority of the country over men. Women just have more population in general in humanity than men do, but not by
It's
much,
like 51-49, something like that. It might even be less, but it's, you know what they call the traditional feminists now, the radical ones. They call them TERFs, like people like J.K. Rowling, trans exclusionary radical feminists. The people that think women are actually women and trans women are not women because they're not. You've never heard the term before?
I have never heard that term before. But then again, I don't follow feminists very often. At least not
It's a
anymore.
Twitter thing. I don't either. I just know
When I
about
was
that.
more liberal, I did followed it a lot when I was more on the other side, and and obviously in middle
We
school,
can
high
certainly
school.
agree that the beginning of the destruction of the culture would have only worked if they could first destroy what it means to be a man. Because
And
if
they
there's
have
no
succeeded.
men, then yes, they have. And a male feminist is a scary creature. And it's obvious what they're doing. It's very creepy.
Well, you think about it. The fourth and fifth, whatever wave of feminism we're on, they don't even refer to male feminists as feminists. They refer to them as male allies to the
They're
movement.
called beta simps. That's what they're called.
That's what we call them because it's true.
That's what they are. Because they know the only way that they'll ever get any is by being creepy. And it probably doesn't even work most of the time, I'm sure.
Most of them wind up being pedophiles and sex fiends and gay anyway.
So how did we get onto this from
George Orwell?
George, oh yes, George. Well, okay. George, he was a socialist also, one of the sane ones. I mean, I wouldn't exactly use the term socialist now because a modern socialist is certainly different from what he was. And did you know that Karl Marx was pro-gun?
Yes.
That's something that nobody ever talks about. He was just like, there's under no pretext shall the workers give up their arms.
Another thing people never talk about when they refer to Karl Marx is that he was a leech. He never worked a day in his life. He leached off of his.
If you look at his personal life, he was a garbage human, and he was extremely racist.
And he was extremely
more racist than the average person from that time.
And he was extremely abusive to his spouse. but he's championed by left. Well, if he didn't have one, he would never have been able to make any money because he leached off of her family. They moved to France. They moved to France, and
he
his
had
father-in-law.
A friend who was like a business partner or something, and that business partner ended up becoming like slavishly devoted to him and gave him all his money. And yeah, he just leached off of everyone. So it's no wonder that he created such an evil ideology.
But you can't say anything bad about Marx because he was black.
What?
That's what they say. You can never say anything bad about black people.
What do you? Karl Marx was black. What?
Oh, at least when unless they got the picture wrong, when I went back and I reviewed a documentary of him.
Pretty sure he's not black.
Let me make sure I don't get my facts right, because I remember watching a documentary of it, and they had put pictures in there, and it looked like a black guy, but it was all black and white pictures. So
he wasn't black. I'm pretty sure he was German.
They were black Germans.
Okay, but you know what I'm talking about? A white European German. That's what I mean. I could be, man. I hope he's not black, man. He's not black, dude.
Oh, it's a black and white
German.
Photo, but hell, look at this picture. Hell,
dude,
he looks almost like fucking Frederick Douglass. That's why that's why I was confused. But he looks
obviously
almost like Frederick Douglass.
This is an artist rendering right here, but it's white.
Well,
he
I
does
got a
almost.
black and white
I was about
picture.
to say that he does look kind of like Frederick Douglass. You're right.
So at least you put that to rest. He is white.
You're the only person who thought he wasn't.
Well, I mean, when I looked at the picture, when I was watching the documentary, they didn't mention his race, but I was looking at the picture, and I'm like, well, fuck, this guy looks like Frederick Douglass.
Yeah, well, get good.
The Communist Manifesto.
Indeed. I gotta have all these books. Engels. Who knows much about Engels? We just talk about Marx, but what about Engels? I don't know anything about him.
I don't think too much about Engels either. And honestly, he gets overshadowed by Marx.
Yeah, I mean, Marx put his name first, but I bet you anything Engels wrote most of the book.
I guarantee you he wrote all of the book. Marx is just willing to take the credit for somebody else's work. And like again, he was a leech. He just sucked the wealth off of everybody else.
Let's talk about 9/11.
Oh, geez, you want to open that bag of worms?
Yes, I do. Because, okay, first of all, you tell me what you think as to the best of your ability. Like, do you believe the official story or not?
Until I see sufficient evidence in the opposite, I will stick with the official story. But
okay, there's no sufficient evidence against it, but there's plenty of weird things about it, though.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. There are a lot of things that are inconsistent, and as far as I was able to, like, I could explain some of them with science, but some of them I can't.
Just one second.
Let's see. Let me take a look here. I really should be looking at the Facebook page to check out in the comments. Let me go here and blah blah blah. Mr. Rivers has been watching us. We still got to get you on the show too. You were supposed to be a guest of ours a while ago. Mr. Rivers has been watching. Yeah, we still got to get Gerald on the show too.
I brought that up to you like a week ago.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, I said it's been a while since I spoke to him, but I was gonna try to get him on the show before Christmas, but then you ghosted me.
So 9/11, there's not any kind of evidence that's like damning, but there's a lot of things about it that seem anomalous. And not the way the buildings collapsed. That's not what I'm speaking about at all.
Yeah, I sufficiently believe, uh, except for building 2, which that one has some strange things about it. But I've been able to, with science, prove how the structural integrity of skyscrapers are
Yeah,
meant
that's
to
not what
fall in on themselves.
I wasn't even going to cite that, because people used to always say jet fuel can't melt steel beams, but you don't have to melt the beams in order for them to collapse.
No, you just have to displace a significant amount of kinetic energy.
But so Osama bin Laden was not really this radical Islamic figure that people make him out to be. He was a Muslim, but he wasn't like a religious zealot. He was more of a playboy. And there is some evidence that he might have been he was actually, I think there is sufficient evidence to say that he was an undercover agent for the CIA, for the United States, for the CIA, and to spy on the Russians while they were occupying Afghanistan.
So what you're saying is that it is most likely, as with many other things, that the United States created its own boogeyman by accident.
Yes. I don't know if it was by accident or not, but it seems like they did. And Al Qaeda was actually created as a proxy army to fight the Russians while they were occupying Afghanistan. There's also some evidence to suggest perhaps the Bush administration knew that this was coming and still didn't do anything to stop it. I'm not one of these people that thinks that it was. So another thing that makes it weird is what I told you about Operation Northwoods in regards to Kennedy and the CIA. That was part of the plan in Operation Northwoods, to crash jetliners into buildings and blame it on the Russians. And so if you add all that together, you might start to think maybe the CIA had something to do with it. And maybe the Bush administration had no idea.
Or we can put our tinfoil hats on even further than we already have and say that if we take a look at the person who continuously blames the Russians for everything, HRC, that perhaps the Clintons, as they are behind so much other crap, were behind this.
I don't think there's any reason to bring the Clintons into this, unless you want to say that the Bushes and the Clintons are essentially the same family, which I believe they are.
Relatively speaking.
Not genetically, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, politically. Relatively speaking, for the most part, the politicians. But then again, you have some outliers. Like, I generally don't believe that Bush Sr. was all that corrupt. He was not very bright. He was not very bright. But
so the Bushes, are you familiar with Skull and Bones? It's a fraternity at Yale.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Okay, so
don't know much about it, but I've heard of it.
So I told you about the Bilderberg Group. The Bilderberg Group is one of another of these groups that's associated with this ring of like shadow government across the world is the Council on Foreign Relations. The Bilderbergs, and Skull and Bones is basically like a primer for young elites at Yale. George H.W. Bush, and John Kerry were all members of Skull and Bones. And George H.W. Bush was probably the most qualified president ever. And he had been the director of the CIA before he was president and the vice president.
But I don't think those make him qualified. I mean, we could say it makes him qualified, but as far as
from an office perspective, as far as prior experience in government, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I understand that. But I mean, when evidence actually hits the table as to what he was qualified to do, he failed, and miserably. Which is why
obviously he failed. I mean, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. I'm not a fan of the guy. I believe he was deeply corrupt. And the CIA is involved in every single one of these conspiracies we brought up. They always are. And there's enough true stuff about them that it makes you really wonder if all of this stuff isn't, because they're also the ones that were selling cocaine.
It also makes you wonder,
and crack in lower income neighborhoods, and that's been proven.
If you think about it in a funny way, it makes you wonder who is feeding information to Seth MacFarlane when he writes the episodes for American Dad, who's based on a CIA agent.
I don't know, but he's another person I share a birthday with, and so I also told you Hillary Clinton, so we all have the same birthday. You know,
Both of you have been cursed.
I don't think so.
You've been cursed to share a birthday with the most rotten person in recent history. It was hers first.
Yeah, I realize that, but that doesn't mean I have to acknowledge that.
Well, you have to at least acknowledge that she has ill marked the day.
Nobody would know unless I said something about it.
They know what her birthday is.
Who? Did you know what it was before I told you?
Yes, I did. Because I Googled.
No, you didn't. You're lying, dude. I see you.
I did. I Googled it because I was curious as to how old Hillary and Trump were when they were running for president. They're both too fucking old, but
yeah, dude. We need to stop running septuagenarians. That's a big problem in American. That's kind of why I hope. The thing is, Trump is going to run. And I don't think Ron DeSantis will run against him, but I wish that he would just let Ron or somebody else younger.
I don't think Ron wants to run. That's the thing. But then, other than Ron DeSantis, who else?
Who else is there?
We've had this conversation before. Who else is there that has the note? See, the reason why Trump works so great for the Republicans is Trump has a natural ability to connect with people with his charisma. He has an unapologetic attitude, but more importantly, what Trump has is star power. The Republicans lack a lot of that because all of the stars that support the Republicans are closet Republicans.
We got to get some other.
They need to come out the closet. I mean, Jamie Foxx just came out the closet as a Republican, or because he went to go visit some Trumpers, and he's like, I was thinking these guys are going to be, they're going to lynch me.
Did he really officially come out?
Well, not officially, but he talked about it where he went out on this.
I don't see Jamie Foxx as a Republican at all.
Look, Denzel Washington.
Neither was Trump. He could run as a Republican just because somebody's,
Denzel Washington's
really
another one too. Either. Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, but then again, Morgan Freeman is.
I don't really want to start this trend of having celebrities run for office.
I don't want to either. But what I'm saying is
but we've already started it, clearly.
We need some type of star power because the fact is, Ron DeSantis, he's good policies, but he's a boring personality.
And he might, I also see him as somebody who'd probably toe the establishment line if he was a president. You see what I'm saying?
So too.
He does seem like
so too. And that's the biggest issue with trying to pick somebody new to get in there. It's you don't know how much you really don't know how much of an insider or outsider they are until they're tested against the system when they get in there.
Yeah. And Donald Trump is the only person right now that's like,
well, Donald hasn't. He probably has
another term in him.
He had an advantage though. The advantage that Donald Trump has is that he was a lobbyist. He was a donor. He knows how the system works from the inside and the outside. So he comes in with a distinct advantage of never being able to be corruptible by the elites because he was already one of them.
It's got to be another billionaire.
Elon Musk.
He was born in South Africa.
Yeah, he can't be.
But I would definitely not be. He has way more influence doing what he's doing now than being the president.
Yes, indeed.
That would be a step down for him.
I also want to address that because a lot of people have been talking about Elon Musk and been a Trumper that he needs Trump. Elon Musk doesn't need a damn thing from Donald Trump. Elon Musk could buy Donald Trump 50 times over. You know,
He doesn't.
stop
He
trying
doesn't
to say
exactly
Elon Musk.
need anyone.
Exactly. He did. Elon Musk. He's his own person. We're
The
all our
thing
own
about
people.
him that I really, but it's clear that the thing that I like the most about Elon Musk is all these other billionaires collude and they go to these World Economic Forums. They're all in bed with the government. They all think that the world is overpopulated. And here comes Elon Musk, who can't be bought, and tells people that they need to have more kids because we're underpopulated.
I love the fact that Elon Musk came out just recently and said that Tesla's about to lay off 10% of the staff, and that the
Because he
ones
has
who
a bad
refuse to
feeling.
come, and he says the ones who refuse to come back to work 40 hours a week can just get another job or get fired.
He also said he has a bad feeling about the economy, and so they're firing 10% of their workforce.
But he also said he had a good thing about feeling about the economy because he believes that the recession is going to be good in the long term for the economy.
Well, how are we reading two opposite things? I saw this yesterday. He has a bad
No,
feeling.
I mean the bad feeling one with the laying off of 10%, that's recent. Just a couple of weeks ago, he said he had a feeling that the recession would be good for the economy. And in many ways,
in the long run, of course, but
he's
for a
not
while, it's not going to be so
because
great.
he's not wrong because of the correctionary periods, but it's going to. The problem is how long is that correctionary period going to last? I think it's going to last about 20 years.
I think that's ridiculous. I mean, unless it's really, I don't think it's going to be that long. Maybe
I think
10.
it's going to be. I think it's going to
We've
be
never had.
double
I mean, how
that
long
of
was
the Great Depression? About 10 years. I think this is going to be double.
Why?
Because all of the trends are showing that this is going to be a even worse dip than the Great Depression is. And the problem with the Great Depression, what extended its life to 10 years? It was FDR doing everything he could to try to stop it from falling. And that extended its life by 10 years. If he would have did nothing, like Warren Harding, who I have always said was the worst president until Barack Obama, but if he had did nothing like Warren Harding did when Warren Harding was dealt with the same hand about 10 years prior to FDR at the start of the 1920s, Warren Harding did literally nothing and the economy recovered in 2 years. FDR did everything and extended it by 10. So it really depends on who becomes the president by the end of this decade.
And it depends on what Congress does also. I mean, you could be right, but I think, I say about 10 probably. Well, maybe we could compromise and say 15, but it could be 10 to 20.
10 to 20. Let's go with that 10 to 20. I hope it's not longer. I hope I'm right and it caps out at 20. I hope I'm wrong and it doesn't happen at all. But if I'm right, I hope
it's going to happen. It's 100%.
I hope it caps out at 20.
It's going to happen. That's a given. It has to happen. There's no other way for it to correct itself.
Exactly. But it goes to the problem. The Fed is not helping at all because the Fed is about to raise interest rates. And
they're screwing everything up. The dollar will soon be worthless.
Well, not only
There's
that,
no point in saving dollars anymore.
Property is a valuable asset, but if the Fed raises interest rates, property is going to become so scarce because nobody in our generation who's not already wealthy is going to be able to afford to purchase property. So all of the elites and billionaires are just going to purchase all of the property up and hedge it for themselves. And then property is going to be the new trading stock because it's just that valuable, particularly property that might have decent areas for agriculture and decent areas for oil. So you look at Texas, you look at California, you look at Alaska. I mean, you look at what Bill Gates has been doing. That's another conspiracy bag.
Oh, yeah. He owns the most farmland, more farmland than any other individual.
What the fuck does a tech guy need with farmland? Nobody ever thinks about it.
Right.
But these guys, they've been seeing the writing on the wall for a long period of time, and they've just been doing whatever they could to prepare themselves for the worst. And the sad fact is that The only one who has come out and said anything about it, now recently George Soros just said something about, like you mentioned, has been now Elon Musk. The others, they just keep it secret to themselves and actually tell you information that is opposite. Like Bill Gates has been saying things that are complete opposite to what he's actually been doing, and because they don't want the competition.
So the global population will peak in 2050 at around 10 billion. That's still not overpopulated, but after that, it will start to decrease because, especially in the West, the United States, for instance, is well below replacement rates for birth. We're about 1.6. We should be at 2.1. That's why he's saying we need to have more kids, or in a couple generations, it's going to be a bunch of old people and no young people to take care of them.
Well, that's the problem. If the replacement theory is not a theory, it is a bona fide fact, but it's not the replacement that these extremists on the left and the right are pushing about white people. It's a replacement of the American voter base, the American working class. They're replacing them with immigrants. And you take a
No,
look.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something completely different.
Oh, what replacement are you talking about?
I'm talking about this is the case in all the Asian countries, China, Japan, the United States. We don't have replacement rate in births to deaths. So we're not going to have enough people to replace the population that's dying off.
You're talking about that. Well, that's what I mean.
Our population is shrinking, but it's everywhere. It's not just here, it's global.
Yeah, but it's going to affect us a lot worse than it's going to affect some of these other nations.
Because
not
as
bad as it's going
the third world is at replacement. So
it's not going to affect us as bad as it's going to affect Europe, because Europe has more immediate access to immigration that may not necessarily be beneficial to Western culture. Whereas
no, it's not. It's clearly not. They're taking all these refugees.
Well, we have to skate a line. We have to skate a line when we say that because of Facebook and YouTube rules. We have to skate lines here. We're trying to keep our channel. That's why I said
The Strange Death of Europe is. Am I lagging or something?
No.
That's what the book by Douglas Murray, The Strange Death of Europe, is about. By the way,
I have no doubts about that, about Europe. But Europe is going to be just an extension of the Middle East, and I don't know. Would you say maybe 50, 60 years time? Maybe sooner.
Oh, it's on. I mean, Europe is basically gone. Now it's not safe.
Now it's America. See, the reason why America still has a fighting chance is because we are on the other side of the hemisphere. It takes a significant amount of time and effort for those types of immigrants to come over here to this country. And unfortunately, when you look at the numbers under the Biden administration, well, just in the Rio Grande last week, 4,000 just in the Rio Grande crossed into the country illegally. And there's an estimated number of 14,000 a day crossing into our country illegally at the southern border.
This is the reason why the United States still has a fighting chance. So if you look at Canada, Canada's pretty far gone. Europe is even more far gone than that. And even Canada perhaps has a chance, just because of geography, because of geography, and because our population is much more robust and much larger. And there's still a good majority of the people who will fight back against this wokeness. Europe is the most woke place in the world.
By far. People like to point to Japan. Japan is nowhere near woke.
Japan, man, they barely let any immigrants in.
Yes.
And nobody complains about that.
It's not because they're racist. It's not because they're racist. It's because the Japanese, they have certain standards, and they don't want their standards to be lowered by people that don't respect it. Assimilation is important wherever you go.
Yeah. And everyone, it's perfectly fine for the Japanese to be that way, but when we do it, it's racist.
And here's the sad thing. As I've said before, Black people like to talk about the white people are going to be the minority, and by 2044. Do you
That's
understand
true.
that during the slave times, black people were 25% of this country's population? Now we're 12.3, and it's decreasing by an average of about 0.1% a year now. Might even be moving slightly faster than that. So long before white people become the minority, black people will be extinct in this country.
Well, our country is being, there is an invading force. The white replacement theory is not a theory either. It's pretty much an established fact. And there was recently a poll that came out. How do you feel about this? Is it good or bad? There was no option for it just is what it is. Because personally, I don't care what race somebody is. I care about what values, and if they have Western free, if they're freedom minded, I don't care if white people become the minority, as long as the people that are coming in have American
But
values,
see,
which I know that they don't,
but see,
but
that's the
that's
problem. There's no value of assimilation to the leftoids, and really to
no,
government
in
as
fact,
a
they think
whole.
assimilation is bad.
Exactly. They think that diversity is going to make our country better. Diversity, nowhere in the world has diversity made a country better. Diversity of outcomes and diversity of ideas, sure, that's fine. But when it comes to culture, diversity in cultures cause strife, it causes violence, it causes chaos and
Causes
wars.
collapse.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just the fact that humans are deeply tribal, and unless we have a certain bedrock of agreement, then we fight, and that's
Exactly.
happening.
The reason why you have such division is because of diversity. Division and diversity go hand in hand. I mean, diverse, the definition of diverse actually has in many interpretations the word division in the definition of diverse.
Yeah, I heard this analogy made, and I thought it was pretty good.
I'm a sucker
Would
for
you
good
organize?
analogies.
Could you imagine organizing a bookshelf by the color of the cover? I'm not talking about the encyclopedias, man. I'm talking
Yes, I
about
can. Yes,
normally
I
how are
can
books
actually.
organized by the author, but they're
My
organized by genre.
mine are a
Just
little bit
listen to my
different.
analogy. You're trying to tear it apart when you know that it's true. Okay, usually books are organized by their subject matter and their genre, what's inside of them, not by what the cover looks like, right?
Yes,
So why are we trying to do that with people? I mean, I don't mean us, but the woke, that
they're
it's
trying to divide us
ridiculous.
into different
It's just,
camps, and the problem is that here's the thing: if you just let people be people, they will divide themselves into their own camps anyway. But if they all share common themes, common beliefs, which is what assimilation is all about, it doesn't matter if people separate into their own communities, because when they go to another community, the values that they hold in their community will be the exact same as the values they hold in other communities. But when you don't have that root structure connecting separate communities to each other, then you have I'll use gangs for example. Then you have the community of the Crips stepping into the community of the Bloods, and they have nothing in common at all, and it's all out war, all out bedlam. And
that's
that's what the left is trying to create between whites and blacks.
they have there's two spheres of influence in this country. We refer to them as left and right, although those are kind of misnomers now, because the right is basically everyone who's not a crazy woke progressive. So that includes libertarians, conservatives, moderates, post-liberals. Um, it's a larger sphere of influence, in my
Have you
opinion,
seen the
and
political
they,
cartoon that explains how people become on the right? That political
yes,
cartoon where it has
yes,
the left and it's pushing the guy over like, hey, you can't believe that,
yeah.
and it pushes them onto our side. But that's effectively what has happened to
But
libertarians.
now we're at a point where the two spheres of influence don't even have an agreement about what's real, what's true. And that's the point where we're like, can we even have a country anymore? can we even exist together? Because the facts
Well,
don't matter to one of those spheres.
one side doesn't believe that our country is legitimate because they have this weird idea in their head that the Native Americans, the indigenous peoples, as they like to call them, which they are not indigenous to this land, not like anybody else, but they have this weird fantasy that the natives just didn't understand war, that the natives did not have war amongst themselves, that the natives did not agree with conquering other lands to expand territory.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous view. They were obviously killing each other far before we ever got here. I mean, they were making alliances amongst themselves and fighting and warring. And then I don't know how this rumor got started.
The Aztecs basically wiped themselves out before the Spaniards came and took care of the rest with their diseases. And the Spaniards really were of the Western European countries that came to the Americas. The Portuguese and the Spaniards were the worst when it comes to how they treated the indigenous peoples and the slaves that they brought with them. They were just the worst. I mean, the Portuguese.
This is a conspiracy theory. The smallpox blankets, which is ridiculous. I mean, there was no germ theory back then.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely. How do you combat a war that you don't even know exists, because we didn't have the ideas of modern medicine and modern science to talk about biological warfare?
Most of them did die because they weren't immune to diseases brought over from the old world.
Exactly.
That's 90%
the majority of them. The majority, yes. And then when you take a look at the Aztec Empire, what happened to them? Well, before the Spaniards even came over there and started with their diseases and the war that happened with them, the Aztecs had overcultivated the land. Their farmland became arid, wasn't able to produce food as richly as it used to, and they were sacrificing themselves at such a high degree. I think I saw one number of like 20,000 a year.
Yeah, their culture was just brutal and grotesque, is what they did to people. Human sacrifice. They
also led to the demise of the Mayans and the Inca, because when they ran out of people to sacrifice in their own culture, they went and captured people from the Inca and Mayas and sacrificed them.
The moral of the story is that humans are humans, and humans do horrible things regardless of where they come from or what color they are.
But
there's no virtuous humans.
It's also important to point out that humans have done just as much, if not more, good than they have done harm. The only problem is that the harm is what we remember most.
And there's a reason for that, because negative emotion affects us more than positive emotion, because if it didn't, we would all have died out. We need to remember the bad things so that we don't repeat them.
Which the left,
that's the reason
again, they hate the idea of teaching real history. They always want to put a spin on it. The more you spin history, the more likely you are to repeat it. And that's why right now we are repeating history. We're repeating history in three fronts right now, if you think about it. We have the stock market crash and depression coming on. World War III is here. We have a civil war going on right now in our country. It hasn't become a hot war yet. It's a cold war, but it's going to get hot real soon. I hope not, but it seems like it. Especially now that Biden wants to ban handguns in that thing. So I mean, we're tackling wars on three fronts. All of it has happened in history before, and never did they happen, at least in modern history, never did these three things happen at the same time. There's always a significant period of peace in between these three types of wars happening all at once. Now they've happened all at once, and that brings about possibly the bloodiest battle in human history if it gets there.
This is the only solution that I personally see, because there's no group redemption or salvation. The only way that we get out of this is personal, at the level of the individual. Each individual must seek to do what they can to better themselves, because otherwise we are going to do ourselves in.
You know, the problem is the sheep, that being the American citizen, have failed to realize that in this country, there are no sheep. There are only shepherds. But we have taken to ourselves to become the sheep and make our government our shepherd, when it's the other way around. Government should be our sheep, and we should be shepherding them. And what I mean by that, I use this analogy because sheep are very placid animals. They follow very easily. When the way our Constitution is set up, it was set up to give us the ability to control and govern our own lives. But we, the people, have said that it's too hard for us to make decisions for ourselves, particularly this new generation. It's too hard to make decisions for ourselves. It's too hard to be held accountable for our own actions. So we have to give more power to government so that we don't have to be responsible for the actions of our irresponsibility. So we are constantly giving up our own individual liberties and freedoms to government, and the government has become the shepherd, and we have become the sheep, doomed to follow the government into the slaughterhouse eventually.
Which is why I say the solution has to be individual. Everybody has to make the choice to stop being a sheep.
Yes,
on their own.
They have to make the choice to stop listening to everything that people tell them. You know, it was always go to school, go to college, get a degree, get a career. Now the thing is, it's go to school, learn to code, get a career in coding. Now you've got an entire market of people that are competing for the same job, and they wonder why they can't find one because the market's oversaturated. Because rather than listening to their own personal whims, to their own personal gravitas, so to speak, they're listening to only what Uncle Sam tells them to do. And what Uncle Sam has told them has not worked. Because every time the government tries to get involved in matters that should be personal, it never works. Government has never been able to operate anything as efficiently as the free market or as individual persons can govern in their own lives.
You know, sometimes I think that the Constitution was doomed to end up in this situation. Because I mean, the Articles of Confederation were actually better.
They were in many ways. They were in many ways. But the Constitution and the Articles of Confederation would have been doomed regardless, simply because of the change of times and because of people. You know, the biggest problem.
That's the strongest argument for having no state at all.
The biggest problem, think about this. The biggest problem, the biggest flaw, and I hate to say this when I'm talking about God, but the biggest flaw that God ever had with man was giving man free will. The biggest flaw that Congress ever had with the Constitution was believing that men should have liberty. And I love liberty. I love free will because it's essential to how we are. But God giving us free will created sin. The Constitution giving us liberty creates what we have right now, where one half of the country wants to eliminate all of that. So it's a duality that is essential when you have that type of power, when you have the power of freedom. That means people are free to disagree with that. And if there's a sufficient amount of those people who disagree with that, then yes, by the very nature of mankind's original sin, we are doomed from the get-go with no matter what type of document we would have drafted. I don't know if you agree with that analogy, but That's the way I think
At
about it.
first, I didn't know where you were going with it. Of course, free will is essential because why create us otherwise? Then, of course, free will is basically the origin of evil. I think it's accurate to say that not that God created evil, but that he allowed for the possibility of evil, because if he didn't, then we couldn't be free. And perhaps the world with the possibility of evil is a better world than a world without the possibility of evil, because then there could be no choices. And without choices, there are no opposites. There's no duality,
Exactly.
and
There could
existence
be
is
no
not real at all.
there
There
could
could
be
be
no
nothing.
good without evil. And so
It would just be nothing.
it's essential that you have it. But the way I'm thinking about it is because of that freedom that we have, we were free to choose to create this path forward for us. We could have had a wonderful life in Eden, immortal, no need to have any type of bowel movements, no sickness, no disease, no disease. I mean, we didn't have to eat, so there was no reason for bowel movements. Okay, so uh, but we could have had perfect utopia, but perfect utopia
But
wasn't good enough for man.
that's no kind of existence anyway. And it's almost impossible to really conceive of what something like that would be like, because
It's
without
different for every person.
opposites, then if without opposites, then there is nothing. Everything is a
Exactly,
unity.
and it's different for every person. My
But the
my idea
purpose,
of perfection is probably drastically different than your idea of perfection.
so the idea of having freedom, obviously, then there is always, all stable societies are threatened by malevolence. And if they're not kept watch upon, then they will crumble, because this is Osiris and Set. He just waits for the moment for the king to become willfully blind, and he leaps at the chance to take him down. It requires a figure like Horus who keeps watch and pays attention.
If you go even
And
further into
that's
that,
just the
and
nature. That's the nature of how. That's the nature of any stable society. But it's more so. It's even more important in a society like ours with freedom. We need more people who are willing to watch and pay attention, so that we don't lose the freedom.
you can go even further into that analogy with the Egyptians and talk about Ra and Set journey on the sunboat to the underworld and back to the surface every again where they have to travel. I think it's Kemet or Sekhmet, who's constantly trying to sink Ra's ship when he goes into the underworld, sailing in the underworld at night, and he has Set's eternal punishment is to protect the sunboat as it goes to the underworld until he comes back around with the sun in the morning time.
Is that a
And
different myth from Apophis, the snake demon?
yes. No, I think it's the same one. I think I got
Well,
the. I think I might have
there are
got the
sun
names.
myths. It's Apophis who eats the sun every night, and there's a battle.
No. This is different. This is a different one. This one
Oh,
is Raw. Literally takes his son boat and travels to the underworld every night, and he has to get back to the surface. And he's trying to get back to the surface about uh, Apophis and Sekhmet. I believe it's Sekhmet. I have to go back and look it up to be on the accurate side. That's trying to sink his ship and trying to prevent the sun from rising again. And he has to do this every day. And Set has to protect Ra throughout that entire journey over and over again. And it parallels to us. Um, not saying you and me, but people in our position where we at this point are the honor guard for freedom and liberty, and not
yeah,
just the West,
it
but the
is us. It
world.
is you and me as well as many others. We
Yes.
have to take that responsibility on ourselves.
But we're constantly trying to allow the sun to resurface, but the problem has become that our side has not had the strength of will to take on this mission, to take on this task. And so Raw's boat hypothetically here, Raw's boat has been stuck in the underworld this entire time for the
Mm.
last 70 years. Raw's boat has been stuck in the underworld because our side has not had the strength of will, the strength of mind to take up the responsibility of protecting him and allowing his ship to sail through safely. And so now we've become so tame. I mean, you have to think about a boat that's been stuck underwater for 70 years, and we're trying to dislodge it and get it to get back to the surface. Now we're having to fight off all types of entanglements and roots and things that have, almost like cement has come in there and made it be stuck to the bottom of the river. And we're trying to dig this boat back up, get it back to the surface, and let it go back around so that we can get back to that normal everyday cycle. And so we haven't had the strength to do it. But now that we have the strength to do it, it's so much harder than it would have been if we just took on this responsibility earlier, if we just accepted it as our role earlier. Because if we had, we would not have to dig up all of this unnecessary mess to get the ship to go back to the surface.
Well said.
A pretty lengthy analogy, but I think
Yeah.
it serves its
Well,
purpose.
but I think you're correct, though. I think now we are starting to get the strength, but I don't think it's necessarily because I think it's because it's different people now that have come and voluntarily taken the mantle on, because people who had the will to do it are finally here.
Well, I think that's I think that's Trump. I think that's Elon. And I'll tell you why. These figures are figures that are bigger than thou. They're bigger than the world, so to speak. And because they have stood up to the establishment, they stood up to the other side, they've shown courage, which we lacked. We did not have the courage to take up the responsibility of fighting the other side. We did not think that we could do that to our fellow man. But they have decided um, that it was cowardice to not fight the other side for what's right. And they have decided to, against all odds, against bankruptcy, against losing billions, like in Trump's case, um, losing billions to take on a job that he didn't need to have, and in Elon's case, to go public with with his idea to vote Republican from now on when he didn't need to do that, when nobody needed to know, nobody cared to know. But the fact that they are willing to put their necks on the line has given it's been a war. It's been a war cry. It's been a war rally to the
Yeah.
other side to say that, look, if these guys who have been part of the establishment for so long are willing to lose everything that they have, their name, their fame, their recognition, their money, then what do you have to lose? And it's given us
Not
the
much
courage.
yet.
It's given us the courage
But
to combat the evil. And I say evil with the purest intents of the malice coming from the other side, because that's all it is. There's no what's the word that you what I'm looking for?
I'm not sure.
There's no blissful ignorance with the other side. And that's not even the word that I'm looking for, but that's the best one I can think of and substitute. There's no blissful ignorance on the other side right now. This is malicious intent. It's pure, unadulterated evil that we have to combat right now.
Yeah. It is like the ideology is evil to the core. When you actually start to dive into the philosophical roots of modern woke progressive leftism, it's absolutely evil. And figures like that have emboldened us because we know we're not alone. There's plenty more who think just like we do. And maybe now, the more people who speak out, the more people who will have the courage to speak out.
And that was for all of his faults, That was Donald Trump's biggest gift to the right,
I think so. Yeah,
without doubt.
I definitely agree there.
Was it gave them courage.
He also showed me that you don't have to act like a politician to win political office.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was one of the most valuable things.
What Trump also taught the right is that if you want to win battles of the ideological kind, you have to be yourself. You cannot pretend to be something that you are not. The left can do that because the left embraces unimind. That's their whole ideology, is that nobody should be different. But if you want to be able to win these ideological battles, you have to embrace your individualism. You have to embrace your own personal identity. And you cannot pretend to be somebody else. You cannot emanate somebody else. And Trump taught
identity
us that.
It's an agreement with society. No one is fully self-created, and you have to accept that. You can't just be whatever you want to be, but you have to be who you really are.
Yes, exactly. And I don't think Trump realizes, I don't think he even understands that is the thing that he helped rally in these people and us who are on, I won't say on the right, but who are on the side that is not batshit crazy. But I don't think he understood just the how grave it was for him to take on the mantle. And even though it was only for 4 years, he was able to in 4 years accomplish something that no president since our founding fathers, since Abraham Lincoln, have been able to accomplish, which was rally the heart of change in men.
Yeah, I definitely don't think he fully understood his place in history at the time.
I don't even know the media. I don't think that the people right now understand it. I mean, we do, but that's because we think too philosophically about everything. So we just sit here, we bounce ideas off of each other, and we come with these conclusions philosophically. But I don't think that right now the culture understands, and I don't think they're going to understand for at least another 100 years the importance of Donald Trump in 2020 and 2016.
2016 was that 2015-16, that slice of time was it was such an exciting election year.
Yes, it was.
I remember that. It was just like, it was crazy. Me too.
I mean, it
was great.
Now it's boring, but it's also crazy at the same time, but it's crazy for the wrong reasons. It's crazy because I'm crying and tearing my hair out at the collapse of our country. I looked at Los Angeles today, $8.10 for regular gasoline.
Oh, I saw something that said 10.
Diesel was $9.57 in Los Angeles.
I mean, we already know they're too far gone. But where are we at?
On national average?
For time. No, for time.
For time, we're an hour, 24 minutes.
Oh, I see that. No, the national average will be at 5 pretty soon. Usually we're a little bit insulated here because we're slightly below the national average, but it's still ridiculous.
It's 425. I went out to get gas the other day. Burleson just sent me a message saying, this is what Burleson just said to me. Listen to this. He sent me a text message saying, I remember the days whenever I only had to pay $20 to fill up my car, which only has an 18-gallon tank. Now it only almost costs me $70 to fill up an 18-gallon tank. I went to the store to fill up to fill up the car. Here, it's a 10-gallon gas tank. Cost me $42. I
Today it
purchased,
cost $40 to fill my grandma's tank up halfway.
I purchased groceries last month, Rhett. And I didn't purchase a whole lot. Guess how much money I spent on groceries in the month of May? Just groceries, not bills.
I don't know, $500.
$683
Well, I wasn't that far off.
just for groceries. It cost me $40 to get a bag of dog food and an air filter for the AC.
Mhm. That's ridiculous.
And I bought that at Rouse's. I had it delivered with Instacart, but I paid so I had the free delivery. But $40.
Instacart's getting ridiculous too, man.
Their
Instacart.
delivery charge
I
is
went.
$7.99. That's
You're
why.
better
That's
off
why
with DoorDash.
I DoorDash is no, it's not. It really isn't. Because you want to know why? You go try to buy something on DoorDash from Winn-Dixie, and then go to Instacart and try to do it. On
That's
DoorDash,
just
it's
I
more
literally just
expensive.
did that. It's $10 less on DoorDash for what I just did.
For what I did, because I purchased 20 plus items at a time, it was cheaper with Instacart than it was with DoorDash, because DoorDash's items are more expensive for individual items because they don't have the high delivery fee that they do on Instacart. Instacart's delivery fee is
Oh,
$7.99. But on Instacart, it was cheaper for the individual items than it was with DoorDash. So with DoorDash,
cancel this order.
I wind up spending more money simply because they charge you more for the individual items. So
It might just be that I bought less.
they might not have the surcharge and the temporary fuel charge that you see on the Instacart thing, but they're getting that money back by raising the price of the individual item on DoorDash.
Man, I just okay. Yeah, maybe it's just that I ordered less. But anyway, are you about ready to wrap
But
this
but
one up?
but it's also $7.99 for a delivery fee on Instacart. As DoorDash for Winn-Dixie's like $3.69, $3.99, I think it is. But I mean, things are tough. Things are tough, really, really tough. Uh, and we can go ahead and end it. I don't really have anything more I want to talk about. I mean, we have conspiracies. I guess next time we'll talk about one of my favorite conspiracies to talk about, which is Sasquatch. I love talking about Sasquatch. Because man, there have been some more stories that I've been privy to about Sasquatch, and of course, the natives have had stories about Sasquatch, and there's tales about it all over the world. But now, I am of the opinion, because Thinker Thunker just made a video on YouTube not too long ago where he did a 3D scan of the Patterson Gimlin film to make a 3D mold of the face of Patty to see what it would look like without the fur. And so now, after looking at that image, I am of the opinion that we have had it wrong scientifically. Uh, Neanderthal did not look like the way it looked like in our history books. I am of the opinion that this Sasquatch is Neanderthal.
Yeah, we can talk about that next time.
It's going to be interesting.
That's that's kind of weird. I haven't heard that before, but
Well, I've heard it before. I just never gave too much thought to it until Because you never think about what the fuck does this thing look like with no fur? What does it look like underneath all of that? And then when I seen the video and I'm looking at it, I'm like, my God, we've had it wrong the whole time. That this is the reason why the natives had such respect for this creature. The reason why the Himalayan, the Tibetans had such respect for it. The reason why the Aborigines had respect for the Yowie in Australia. The reason why they had respect for Yeren Pendek in Malaysia. The reason why they had such respect for the Mapinguari in Brazil. It's because they've understood what we have not this entire time, is that this has not been an animal. It's just another version of man. And it was shocking to actually see, to actually visualize that without any hair. And it actually almost looked like, you remember that episode of Scooby-Doo with the caveman that was frozen in the ice, and they had had it thaw out after it fell off the boat. It actually reminded me of that. Not so much because it looked like a caveman, but because when the face, and the first thing I thought was that Scooby Doo, where the face, the lips were really thinned out and stuff like that, because these creatures have very thin lips. Their lips are thinner than white people's lips, and white people don't even have lips. That was my racist joke of the day. But anyways,
Okay.
anyways, we've had fun with this one. We should do more of these conspiracy things. I think if we can't find people to interview on Saturdays from now on, if we have nobody to interview, conspiracy panel.
That works.
I think so too. And so we've had fun. Any updates of anything that you want to add before we close down? As a matter of fact, when are you going to do something with your series?
Tuesday. I've written something now. I mean, it's going to be something that I'm going to have to be working on constantly, but each week I'll have to write. It's going to be pretty research intensive. I know a lot of stuff about it already. It'll just be, I actually have to sit down and think about it and write it. But yes, I do have the first episode partially done.
Okay, that's wonderful. And I understand exactly what you feel, because I write all the time, but sometimes, particularly when you're trying to do things for a time schedule, sometimes the research that's required to write some of the episodes that I've written, and really some of the stuff that I've written that aren't episodes, that I just write just for the sake of writing, it takes a lot. And sometimes it can be really draining, especially when we have such busy work schedules too. So I absolutely understand that the idea of the intensive research that's required. But any uh any other updates or anything that you think will might be interesting for people to know?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, and well, with that, I do want to mention that right now, wanna for those people who wish to be investors in something, that I think that it is important to note that there are a couple of stocks that I would encourage you to be mindful of, because right now stocks
Be
are
careful. You can't give financial advice.
actually, I have a license for that.
Not a good idea.
I have a Series 6 and 63 for that.
You need to make sure you put a disclaimer in. This
But
is not financial advice, just suggestions.
it's not financial advice, it's financial coaching. That's my actual professional title. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't have a Series 27. So it's just financial coaching. So I can't charge any money for this. It's just free intake. But from what I've been seeing, some of the largest daily movers in the last couple of weeks have been a company called Vaccinity. They have been moving at a rate of about 18% in the last couple of weeks. Their stock price is very cheap right now, only costing $4.48 to purchase a single stock. And so overall, they have been down and declining, but lately they have been rising up on the market. Like I said, they just had a peak of 18% that they rose. That was just 2 days ago. So for people who want to get started in investing, I think this one is obviously it's not going to be one for you to make and try to flip with day trading or something like that. But because it is so cheap, and because from the research that I was able to do into Vaccinity, I think that it's going to be pretty up and coming um, with the markets, considering that it is um, a biotechnology company. I think that it's going to be something that's going to have to produce some value at one particular point in time, and eventually, I think it's going to be sold off to one of these major pharmaceutical companies, and that buyback is probably going to produce a significant yield for shareholders. But do your own research before, if you decide to buy individual stocks. I still advise um, or suggest that if you do decide to get into the investing markets, that you start off with something safe like a mutual fund. It's the least risky that you can do. It builds money the slowest, but it builds money the safest. And overall, you will be much more economically uh, advantageous and economically safe having a mutual fund of some kind, particularly one that includes gold and is diversified, meaning that it's not a non-diversified mutual fund, which means that the only thing in that mutual fund is one particular genre of investment, which, say for instance, if you just invested in gold and silver and nothing else, that was a non-diversified mutual fund. And that, in my opinion, is unsafe, because if something happens to the individual market, then you just lost a whole bunch of money. So I still say that the best bang for your buck is to make sure that you browse around. Do it now while the market is down, while it is still continuing to decrease. Bitcoin is down another 5% today, um, and continue to purchase into these things while they are down, uh, because it's cheaper, and the cheaper it is, the better it's going to be for you to get in there. And make sure that whatever you do, if you're getting the mutual fund, if you're investing in something, that you back up your investment with something that also includes gold, silver, and other precious metals, because they are going to be very important with the collapse of the American dollar. Also, if you can afford it, because it's about to get a hell of a lot more expensive when the Fed increases interest rates, look into getting yourself physical property. Property is going to be a very important investment, and if Bill Gates can do it, um, then it's a good indicator that you should be doing it as well. But with that, I'm not going to suggest anything else. I just wanted to bring up that there are some beginner stocks out there that are fairly cheap, that are in sectors that will do good and may give you a little bit of a bump in your portfolio. But with that being said, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Discord, follow us on Truth Social, follow us on Rumble. Uh, we got other, follow us on Twitter. We have a Twitter too. Follow us everywhere that you can follow us at Story of America with Pace and Williams, or at the Story of America PW. We will be looking forward to seeing you with us. And with that, we are out of here in 3, 2, 1. See you guys.